Yes. And you guys thought a full week after the NFL was done playing that we wouldn't have a show. Guess what? We got plenty of show for you today.
Right now.
My main man right there is Mr. David Jacoby. Yeah. And of course, right here, Super Bowl champion, Mr. Willie Colon. Great to have you here. And what a crazy weekend it was. In the sports world, of course, you had the NBA All-Star festivities all weekend long, culminating in that joke of a game last night. 900 points scored in an All-Star game, which is now a record. We'll get into that. But I got to be honest, I got to keep it at 100 with you. I said I always would. I didn't watch a single second of it, not 1 second. But I have seen the highlights.
Yeah.
And I feel like I made a terrible mistake investing so much of my time in the three-point shootout, in the dunk contest, in the Rising Stars game, in the East vs. West All-Star game. Last night, the NHL outdoor game at MetLife Stadium looked awesome. Yeah. 80,000 people there on Saturday, 80,000 people there again yesterday, Rangers Islanders. And again, I didn't even know that hockey had started, but after wasting my entire weekend watching meaningless basketball, which I love, I wish I'd spent a couple minutes watching some hockey.
Yeah, the hockey looked great,
Said
man.
nobody ever, by the way.
I wonder how Woody Johnson feels, right? The fact that everybody sold out in your building, it was a hockey game instead of a Jets game.
Well, think about this just from a factual standpoint. There have been more hockey games in MetLife Stadium than playoff football games, and MetLife Stadium is home to both the New York Jets
and Giants.
The New York Giants,
not good. Not good.
Not good.
The Rangers have more big wins than the Giants.
The other thing from this weekend, and I knew it going in, and we're all big basketball fans here. And by the way, Tim Hardaway is going to join us coming up a little bit later on this morning. He'll be with us full time after like mid-March, so that's coming up as well. But I knew it going in. I knew it. You knew it. You knew it going in. That we spend all this time talking about, like for us as Knicks fans, Jalen Brunson better be an all-star. Like, we're vested in it. We want our favorite player on our favorite team to be represented in the all-star game because we like seeing our colors, right? And that's uniform no matter who you root for. That's one of the things we all have in common. And then the game sucks. The game always sucks. The slam dunk contest sucks. The three-point shootout sucks. Like, the best thing all weekend, let's be straight about it, was Ionescu against Steph Curry in the little mano-a-mano three-point shooting competition.
You said that was good?
I did. You know
why?
That
was the downside
I
of the
liked
weekend.
it. And going into it, I didn't want it because it seems like that's the woke thing to do.
Did you not think Steph Curry was going to beat her?
Yeah, but it's the manner in which she shot her ass off. And then he needed the big rack late to beat her. And the fact is, she shot from the distance the men shoot.
Correct.
Yes, she uses her own ball, but that's her game. No issue with that at all. And she outperformed every other shooter in the entire NBA.
Well, she got 26 altogether, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was not impressed, but I guess my expectations, because I've watched her play before, I thought she was very on par. Like, I expected her to do what she did.
Fair enough. Yeah. Now, she wasn't shooting from the women's three-point line, which I thought made it even more equitable.
Correct.
And look, she's a rock star talent. But that, to me, was the highlight of the whole weekend because as much as we all love offense and we want to see high-flying dunks, and big shots and dudes making shots from the logo and all that, Dame Lillard literally from half court a couple times yesterday. Dude, I don't need to see 218 to 190. I don't need to see it. Like, it's not basketball. And I know we say this every single year, but here's the good news. I've spent the entire morning, and I got up at 2 o'clock this morning. I have figured out how to save All-Star Weekend.
Thanks, Greg.
All
we
right.
appreciate that.
You did that all this morning before the show.
I had a big turkey sandwich.
In the morning?
He saw it.
Yeah.
A big turkey sandwich.
You know what? I got a turkey sandwich, too.
There you go. See, I've inspired someone else on this show. And I had a couple shots of, I don't want to get into it. But, the number one whiskey in America is no longer Jack Daniels. It's now Fireball. True story. So I had a couple shots of Fireball, and I have fixed NBA All-Star Weekend, and I'll bring that to you coming up a little bit later on.
I thought the Fireball was related. I thought the Fireball was involved.
Fireball was involved, yes, but I'm going to sober up a little bit, and then I'm going to bring it to you a little bit later on in the show. Look, we have a great show for you today. We do have a ton of basketball coming your way. Tim Hardaway is going to join us, and, of course, plenty of football because there's one guy one guy that cannot stop talking, and I love it. And that guy is Micah Parsons. So if you're Dallas Cowboy fans, Micah has the recipe and the remedy for what ails you. And we'll explain what it is right after this on FS1. All right, welcome back to the Carton Show. Before we get to Micah Parsons and the NFL, let's just give a little tip of the cap to the back-to-back NBA dunk champion. I love this guy. 6-foot-tall G-leaguer, a better dunker than every single guy currently in the NBA. Mac McClung dropped it like he was hot again.
Look at that guy.
I would say just one thing, if I may. One thing, if I may. Can we stop jumping over people? Like every single dunk, was jumping over it, dude. Now look, I know Shaq's 7'2", whatever he is, and it was cool watching a 6-foot guy jump over Shaq. But every single dunk, we're leaping over it, dude. That being said, memos should be out to the NBA. You can't allow a 6-foot-tall G-leaguer to come into the NBA back-to-back years and win your dunk competition.
I agree.
Someone's got to have some self-respect and some pride and go, enough is enough.
I mean, I agree with you. I just miss the days of the props. When they used to have props, a car come out.
It got a little extra. Remember when Dwight Howard's wearing a Superman suit?
Yeah.
Remember Paul George had a glow-in-the-dark costume one time?
But I don't mind that. I mean, to Craig's point, everybody's jumping over one guy. We're supposed to go ooh and ah. After you see it 1 or 2 times, you're like, all right, enough.
I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. It's the fact that he's a little white dude is what's really going on here. It's the fact that it's just like a little white dude.
But we've grown up.
And like he has a haircut like someone you went to high school with. Like he just doesn't look like the best dunker in the world.
So the pizza boy can dunk. I get it.
Exactly.
Like,
All I'm saying is, that's my guy. My guy.
You did a great, Craig. I'm so proud of you.
My
You
guy.
called him a G-leaguer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
I talked around.
You didn't even say it.
Let's just say it the way it is. A 6-foot white dude from the G League came into the NBA
with a goofy haircut
and out-dunked every dude in the NBA, not just last year, but also this year. At some point, let's take some pride in being an NBA player and show Mac McClung that we got dudes who can dunk better, please.
yeah, his dad's black. But anyway, I mean, congratulations to him. I'm glad that this is kind of. But we know he can jump.
Come on, Jaylen Brown. Come on, Jaylen Brown. I was proud of Jaylen Brown for being an actual star.
He's a legitimate star.
Saying, you know what? Screw this. I'm going in the dunk contest.
Yeah.
And then he does it, and you're like, what?
It wasn't good.
Well, there is a little theme, though, building in there. Mac McClung, Caitlin Clark.
I
don't know, but there's a theme I'm working on. I'll get to that theme a little bit later on.
New sneakers out
in
there?
the show. I should mention Tim Hardaway is going to join us later in the program. All right, let's get to the NFL because Micah Parsons has not stopped chirping since the season ended. Of course, it ended in an embarrassing home loss to the Green Bay Packers. But good news, Dallas Cowboy fans. Micah Parsons is giving his input on what the Dallas Cowboys need to do specifically on the defensive side of the ball. Let's take a listen to Micah Parsons. Go ahead, guys.
So I told Jerry, I said, look at every team that kind of was in that Final Four. Who do they have? We need to get another bigger linebacker who's going to come down in. And I said we need to get a super 330 nasty interior.
All right, so interesting that as he's handicapping the Cowboy needs this offseason, he didn't talk about Dak Prescott. He didn't talk about their inability to run the ball successfully and with any kind of continuity. He talked about what they need and what they don't have on his side of the ball.
Smart.
Which I find very interesting because that guy's an all-world player, and yet he's acknowledging that it's the Dallas Cowboy defense that held them back and was a problem in that playoff game, and really all year long, I suppose, for the Dallas Cowboys. How about that?
From that aspect, I thought it was smart. But he also understands life happened fast for the Dallas Cowboys. You understand from the linebacker position, they got thin fast, right? You're talking about Van Der Esch going down with a neck injury. He only played 5 games. Their rookie, Demarion Overstrong, he got hurt in preseason. So they really was forced to use a lot of their DBs and put them in the linebacker position to kind of have some stability. But I thought the biggest mishap was they drafted a big hog molly, if you will, old school saying.
Yeah.
And Mozzie Smith, who was 330 pounds, they made 350 pounds, and they made him lose weight during the season where he got all the way down to 300 pounds, and they couldn't stop the run. And so for me, it's more schematically was where they suffer. That's why Dan Quinn,
Here's one of those weird things, though. Like, look, Dan Quinn's gone, right?
Yep.
They bring in Mike Zimmer for next year. Quinn moves off, to be a head coach, obviously. He'll have another opportunity within the division. But, here's the craziest thing. We talk about this all the time on this show, and it's called accountability.
Yep.
Take some ownership of what you didn't do well. When you're the face of the Dallas Cowboys defense, and that's what Micah Parsons is, as much as Dak Prescott is the face of the Dallas Cowboy offense, wouldn't it be nice and refreshing if you just came out and said, look, I got to play better. I didn't get the job done.
That's old, Greg.
Because I went from week one when they blew out the New York Giants 40-0, and we're talking about how great the Cowboy defense is going to be and how this dude is the second coming of Lawrence Taylor. And then I watched every play, like you guys did, of every Cowboy game. And while he is a great player, and I don't want to get that twisted in this, he is a great player. There's a lot of games where he doesn't show up in the StatCom at all. No assists, no pressures, no tackles. And I'm saying to myself, maybe you don't need another linebacker. Maybe you don't need the guy he's talking about on the defensive line. Maybe you just need to play better.
No, listen, I think they try to move him around. Like, I think we talked about the San Francisco game where he pretty much got beat up by Trent Williams and company. And then they tried to get him to the other side, and they moved him around. Then they got him off the ball and let him play a true linebacker position. But overall, he's right. Defensive line, they need help. And by the way, the Cowboys have invested in this defensive line since like 2022 to now. They just haven't found the right pieces. In the linebacker position, they've just gotten thin. They haven't had any impact players. But I think Micah Parsons, first and foremost, he just has to go back to doing what he does really well, and that's rushing the passer. And when they needed a play to be made in that regard, he hasn't showed up on a consistent basis.
See, I don't think that he's wrong, and I don't think that you're wrong. Like, they could use a little bit more of a sort of presence in the middle to stop them run. They could use a different linebacker. Vander Esch being hurt was a big thing that nobody talks about. It's not like a household name.
That was
a big deal for them, right? But what you're saying is what I really feel, Craig. Here's the thing. You're the guy. You're Micah Parsons. Right. You're the future Hall of Famer. You're the reason. You need a nasty interior? Be a part of the nasty interior. You need a better linebacking play? You're a linebacker.
Yeah, but he's not a big man. He's only 6 feet,
Of course not. But I'm saying, like, it sounds wrong to me to have your star player say, here's a laundry list of help that I need.
Why?
Here's a laundry list of places that we
watch
need to improve
quarterbacks do
upon
it all the time.
for me to be successful.
Yeah, but we watch quarterbacks go out and like, hey, I need a receiver. I need a running back. If I had more protection. Aaron Rodgers does it all the time.
Yeah.
So we can't get mad if a star defensive lineman or star player of that defense goes, hey, man, you want us to go to the Super Bowl, we need some more big fellas in the middle to kind of anchor this D-line.
Well, it's interesting. Don't forget, honestly, the side part of this story is Jerry Jones saying, I'm all in for 2024. I'm not sure how that's any different for the last 30 years, in which I assume that he was all in and you didn't get to a single NFC championship game. But being all in means I don't know what, because you're coming back with 95% of the same exact roster. And the biggest change you're probably going to make for the entire offseason is the fact that you have a new defensive coordinator. I mean, that really is the biggest change. Now, yes, they will acquire hopefully some talented guys in the draft, and maybe there's a couple free agents that they bring in. But for a team that, let's be honest about it, really disappointed everybody after winning 16 straight games at home and having Jordan Love, who because of that game in the playoffs, people now think is the second coming of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay.
I'm
not going to give you flowers.
Why? What's wrong with Jordan Love?
Because Jordan
Love, he couldn't do it and he did it.
He had 5 good games last year. Now, to be fair, they were all in the second half of the season, so everybody felt pretty good about his growth, right? But it's the Dallas Cowboys defense that made Jordan Look like a top 5 quarterback. I mean, that's what happened. Like that, and that's why Micah Parsons is talking about, we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that. And I'm telling you right now, if I'm Jerry Jones, the real Jerry Jones, not the guy that's playing Jerry Jones now, because that's an imposter, would have been like, listen, son, we need more out of you. Because the Jerry Jones that I fell in love with would not have tolerated one of the biggest players on his team speaking publicly about what he doesn't have. He wouldn't.
Or speak
Never.
in public about the conversation, because when you do that, you put a target on yourself in the locker room, right? Because if you're the guy who has the direct bridge to the owner or a GM, people start walking lightly around you, right? Because people start calling you a snitch, or the guy they have to worry about, like, hey man, is he down with us or is he down with the organization? And I'm valid. I love Michael Parsons and I love everything he brings to the table, but he has to go back to just being a ball player. Don't wear the GM hat because it can get you in trouble.
But they currently have down linemen and they currently have linebackers. If Craig does a podcast, he's like, well, I really wish I had a better co-host and maybe a new former football player. I'd feel a certain way.
Have you been reading my tweets?
I think you
or my private text messages. Once again, I was hoping for more. Anyhow, we got much more coming your way this morning. Appreciate you joining us here. We got tons of football, including why Calvin Ridley is going to be the #1 free agent wide receiver on the market in the next couple days, and much more right after this on FS1. Happy President's Day, I guess, to you. I'm not sure if you got a thing.
What do we celebrate? All of them?
Yeah,
Or
what
is
do
it one
we?
particular?
It started off as like a Washington and Lincoln kind of thing,
Right.
and now you celebrate whoever your favorite president might be. Maybe don't say it publicly because then people hate you.
Okay.
But feel free. By the way, speaking of college basketball, I should say that ever since Caitlin Clark, who's arguably the greatest women's basketball player at the collegiate level of all time, knocking down this from the logo jumper to become the all-time leading scorer. Fascinating the hatred that's now coming her way.
Yeah, that's rough.
So why can't we just accept the fact that Caitlin Clark is a hell of a basketball player, is now the all-time leading scorer, and not try to diminish her accomplishments by making silly, uninformed comparisons to other players that came before her, or to knock her because she hasn't won a national title just yet. She is one of the greatest female basketball players of all time, period, stop. And she has changed the narrative of women's basketball from this standpoint. I don't watch women's basketball. I don't.
Shocking.
I have no interest in it. But I know who Caitlin Clark is, and I was watching when she broke the record last week because I appreciated what she was trying to accomplish, and more power to her and the other women out there who are great ball players who play in a world where many men have no interest in what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, she's a real hooper. I give her that 100%. Are we not allowed to say who she reminds us of?
You can say whatever you want.
Because I think she reminds me of Christian Laettner. As
Fair
far
enough.
as being fiery, kind of in your face, doesn't back down, has the ability to score the ball. It's great for college basketball. I think a lot was made between her and Angel Reese, that big matchup last year when they lost to LSU.
Because of the wagging of the finger and
all
all
that
that.
whole
right?
nonsense.
Yeah.
I think she's great. And mind you, she has one more year of eligibility. She's going to go into the WNBA and she's out of here.
But if she was smart, she'd go back for another year. She could probably make more money in NIL money than she can
she's
in the
already making
WNBA.
more money than half the
Because
NBA.
of everything that's happened with men's college basketball, right? Like, there just aren't as many like household name stars in men's college basketball. But right now, you got Paige Buckets later today at noon on Fox, and you've got Juju at USC. You've got Caitlin Clark over here. Like, I think there are more female college basketball stars in my particular mind than ever before, and less men's basketball stars.
Listen, that's probably a fair argument, but just stop the negativity and hatred. Stop trying to make yourself a more well-known communicator on TV or radio with a jackass point of view. It's just stupid. Whether that's Cheryl Swoops, who embarrassed herself over the weekend, or Jay Williams, who embarrassed himself over the weekend as well. Let her record stand for what it is. She's the greatest all-time scorer in women's basketball history at the collegiate level. Period. Stop. Don't need to say anything else about Caitlin Clark, and just appreciate how great she is. From there, back to the NFL and a little something we like to call a first and football.
Interesting news about Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yes.
He was suspended for 2 games for violating the PED policy. Obviously, we have no details on exactly what or when or how he did what he did, but he tested positive for something he wasn't supposed to. And here's an interesting wrinkle. That means that the Raiders can now waive him, and then they will have no obligation to pay him a penny. Everyone expects them to do so. What do you think happens to Jimmy G?
Well, a few things. First off, he took a substance that is not illegal to take as long as you have a therapeutic doctor's note to take it. So it's not like he was shooting up steroids in the back of a gym. That's number one. Number two, why is he taking something when he wasn't playing? Obviously. And number three, as you know, having lived that life, Every NFL player needs to know exactly what he's putting in his body. No excuses for putting something in your body that hasn't been approved. This seems a little fishy because it's not a steroid per se. It's something that is allowed to be taken with a doctor's note. He apparently didn't have a doctor's note. Here's where it becomes tragic for Jimmy Garoppolo. Number one, because he's now going to be suspended for the first 2 games of next year, the Raiders can void the guarantee. That's $11.25 million.
Whoops.
Secondly, they're also going to cut him before the March roster bonus kicks in, which is how much? Another $11.25 million. So, Jimmy Garoppolo, A, getting hurt, and B, not playing well even before he got hurt, and now being suspended for 2 games because of this failed drug test, it has now cost him $22.5 million. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo will be on a roster this upcoming season. It will not be as a starting quarterback for any team he goes to. It'll be as a veteran backup. Hello, New York Jets, or a team like the New York Jets that'll bring him in because he's had some experience. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's done a lot of winning in his career, and he's a competent quarterback. But Jimmy Garoppolo went to Vegas on a $70+ million deal, and he ain't going to earn 50 of those $72 million, and it's all self-inflicted.
And it's
crazy.
It's unfortunate because he's 32 years old, and some may question this may be it for him, right?
Well, he'll be on a roster, but his opportunity to be a franchise quarterback.
But think about how he left the field, Craig. I mean, he was 3-3 as a starter. He had 7 touchdowns and 9 interceptions.
Yeah.
He wasn't wowing anybody.
No, he was not.
When O'Connell got in the game, half of Raider Nation was like, woo!
Yeah.
Give us something. He didn't be something.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how much that's him versus coaching, but he'll have to eat it. But I just look at it purely from the financial standpoint. Look, he's made a lot of money in his career. You'd have to think he's fine financially. But when you go to Vegas and you got $70+ million coming your way, and remember there's that fugaziness with the contract when he first got there about the injury and what did he tell you, what didn't he tell you, and how much we're going to guarantee and now blah, blah, blah. The fact that he would be stupid and take a substance he didn't have permission to take, knowing that they're going to cut him before the roster bonus kicks in, and cost himself the extra $11 million, that's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, but that's a guy panicking, too. When you're 32 years old and you realize you can't turn it over like you used to, you now have to hit the black market and kind of heal you up.
Well, the black market to me is the New York Jets. And if the New York Jets announce that they're signing Jimmy Garoppolo to be their veteran backup quarterback, I got no problem with it. I'll take it.
Really?
Because he's an upgrade over what I had. Now, I think they're going to talk more about guys like Ryan Tannehill. The guys with that level of success. But let's not forget, Jimmy Garoppolo did a lot of winning in his NFL career, went to a Super Bowl, and if you told me that he's my backup quarterback, I'm okay with it.
It's just iconic that how we've gotten to know Jimmy G is because of Deflategate. We forget when Brady got knocked and gets suspended. That's when the emergency.
And remember, Tom Brady, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, was insecure about Jimmy Garoppolo being on that Patriot roster. So that tells you the kid's got something.
When he signed with the Raiders said, this is our quarterback for the next 3 years. This is our starting quarterback, and they paid him. And the number associated with his contract was that. The next contract that he signs this summer is going to be nothing like that. The idea is going to be like, you're a veteran guy. Hopefully you never see the field. Here's $8 million.
Oh, he ain't even getting that much. You're talking about a one-year deal for like $2 million with a couple incentives if you play. Jimmy Garoppolo's money-earning days are now behind him. And again, self-inflicted, right? You knew the Raiders were going to cut him before the roster bonus kicked in because they save $11 million. But to take this drug, whatever drug he took, without knowing you're allowed to take it, knowing that the risk is if I get tested, I'm going to forfeit another $11 million.
Respectfully to Jimmy G, there's not an athlete in this world when he sits in front of a doctor, whoever that guy is, and goes, hey, he doesn't ask the question, what's in this? He knew what was in it.
Of course. You have to know.
He knows.
Yeah, what else you got?
Moving on to second in football, some interesting reports out of Pittsburgh. Now, let's talk about the quarterback position of your former team, Mr. Cologne. There's some reports that inside the building, some people are Team Kenny Pickett and some Mason Rudolph. Is the right quarterback for the Steelers Pickett, Rudolph, or anybody else not named Pickett or Rudolph?
Listen, I'm going to go with Mason Rudolph if I have to pick, man. We're talking about 8-4 and 1 as a starter. You know, he won his last 3 regular season games. Go back to the Buffalo game where he came and rallied in the second half. He's been through a lot. I don't know. I think Pickett needs more time to grow. But if you had to make a decision, I think there's a lot of speculation that they're not going to go outside. They're not going to get a Kirk Cousins. They're not going to get a Justin Fields. It looks like they're going to figure out between these two gentlemen, maybe bring one more person. But I think he's going to get Rudolph. I think they're going to battle it out.
So you're saying that you and Steeler Nation is just giving up on next season?
What are we doing?
I don't think he's giving
now,
up.
I want to be clear. To be fair to my partner over here, Willie Colon, the question Jacoby asked was, do you want Mason Rudolph or Kenny Pickett or an unknown?
Or anybody else.
And I picked Mason.
Yeah, so, but the problem is the unknown part of that. Because you're not going to sit here, my dear friend, and tell me that you want Mason Rudolph over Justin Fields. You ain't going to say that.
Well, we don't even know what's happening.
Which is why the question mark's the problem. So if I take the question mark out just for a moment, and I say Mason Rudolph or Kenny Pickett, I'm with
Justin
you.
Fields.
No. If it's just Mason Rudolph or Kenny Pickett, I'm a Mason Rudolph guy.
Good.
The offense damn near doubled under Mason Rudolph, and Kenny Pickett hasn't earned the right to be able to say it's my job. He's not a very good quarterback.
True.
Now, let's add the question mark back in. If you told me I could go get specifically Justin Fields, then you got to slow your roll on Mason Rudolph. That's an upgrade.
Yeah, if Justin Fields is in the equation, I'm going to go get Justin Fields.
Thank you. I want to make sure we're clear about that.
You're correct.
Now, Justin Fields, who also has a lot to prove in the NFL, I would take Justin Fields all day over Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett. I'll do you one better. If the Pittsburgh Steelers do get Justin Fields, and let's assume that Kenny Pickett's not a part of the deal and Rudolph's not a part of the deal, I would cut Kenny Pickett. I wouldn't leave him around because then you've got poison in the sandbox, and I wouldn't want that on my roster.
He just got there.
I wouldn't want him. It's poison because you've already seen a lot.
But he's not a toxic guy.
No. There's a little bit. A little toxicity with him.
When did we see that?
Which, remember when he was coming back from injury and they weren't going to start him, and he goes, I ain't got no interest in being the backup. Remember that?
What player is going to be happy with being benched, Greg? You wouldn't be happy.
No, I've never been benched.
You fought your tail off the rehab table, and I feel like you can't compete. You want to help your team win, especially when the world is already counting you out. He's probably read the headlines. Nobody has any faith in him. Wouldn't you be upset that you're getting benched?
If you bring in Justin Fields, I got to get rid of the poison pen. Kenny Pickett gets cut. Period. Stop. What else you got?
We got more on Justin Fields. So, the Bears' number 1 pick. Do they keep Justin Fields? Do they use the number 1 pick on a quarterback? That still remains to be seen. However, former offensive coordinator of the Bears, Luke Getsy's now the offensive coordinator of the Raiders. And here's what he said about Justin Fields.
Tremendous growth for Justin. I told you, like I've said when I was there, like he's one of the best human beings I've ever got to work with. It's just the mentality that he brought every day, the consistent approach, the kind of man that he is. Just really, it was a blessing to work with him.
So you've got the Raiders offensive coordinator talking about Justin Fields. Do you feel like the Raiders are going to make a serious run at adding Fields?
No, I don't. And I don't think Justin Fields wants to be with Luke Getsy. And just think about this. If you felt all those things that Luke Getsy just said about Justin Fields, then why are you taking a lateral move? Why wouldn't you stay there as offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears and work with Justin Fields to bring out the next step of his maturation in the NFL? Right? Now, I know the claim is that the Chicago Bears fired him, but to me, if you feel that connected to the quarterback, and the quarterback feels the same way about you, you never get fired, and you're the offensive coordinator there for multiple years. So the notion that the Chicago Bears fired him, he knew has nothing bad at all to say about Justin Fields when we watched Justin Fields play, and while he got better, there's plenty of bad stuff to say about his game, not who he is as a person. His game ain't great. Why, if you're Justin Fields, would you ever want to be reunited with the guy that just got fired for working with you? That doesn't make any sense. And if I'm the Raiders, if I go out and get Luke Getsy like I did, that tells the world I'm not going to get Justin Fields because it didn't work out.
Well, they didn't have success together. That's the thing about
That's
this
the
whole
bottom
thing.
line,
It's like if you look at Hackett and Rodgers, right? Whatever you feel about Hackett, like at least they have a history of success working together.
Yes.
That they're trying to replicate.
They won a Super Bowl.
Getsy and Fields do not have a history of success working together that you want to replicate.
Well, we forget early in the season, well, I think it was like week 1 or 2, when Justin Fields said, I don't know what I'm doing out there. Like everybody was spinning around his head. And he had to actually go on. Remember, he had to walk it back in front of his locker, like, no, I love my head coach, I love my OC. I just kind of missmoked there. So it shows you they're not, the marriage shouldn't happen.
I can guarantee you now that Justin Fields is not going to the Raiders, outside of some ridiculous package offered to get him. Because why would you want to be reunited with the coach that's directly responsible for your man out there in the corner? That, as much as I'm saying quite defiantly, there's no way that Justin Fields gets traded to the Raiders. It is the Raiders.
So, they've had no success together. It makes no sense to reunite them. It would never happen. However,
it's like Jet-esque.
Very Raider-esque if it does happen.
There you go. They're telling me we got to take a quick break. Is that right? We have to already got to take a quick break.
What?
All right, coming up, one of your favorite Monday segments on the show, and that's Get Learnt. For those of you that didn't get to watch every single sporting event over the weekend, that's why I'm here. I never leave the house.
Okay,
I watch it all. And I'll tell you all the important things I learned.
Watch it all.
Thanks,
By the way, I watched it all.
Okay.
From the Genesis golf tournament that Tiger pulled out of, to the All-Star game, to the outdoor NHL games this weekend, to NASCAR, to everything.
Yeah.
I watched it all. I watched all of it.
Yeah.
I watched it all. All of it.
Two San Jose State alumni who protested during the 1968 Olympics. They intended to draw global attention to the plight of people of color in the U.S., spotlighting injustice and inequality endured by millions of black Americans. Mr. Smith raised his right fist to represent black power. Mr. Carlos wore a bead necklace to symbolize lynching of black Americans and raised his left fist to represent black unity. The scarf he wore stood for black pride, and the socks with no shoes represented African American poverty. Their powerful silent protest was controversial, but it woke folks up and created greater opportunity for those that followed. This Black History Month, I salute you both.
Yeah, John Carlos, born right here, Harlem, New York City. Good job by JJ right there. That's Jacoby. And, of course, is Willie Colon. Great to have you here. And, of course, throughout the entire month of February, everybody here at FS1 will provide you a little vignette like that about African-American men and women who made a difference in our communities and more globally as well. Big sports weekend, believe it or not. I know it's post-Super Bowl, so we're like, I don't want to go walking in the mall with my wife ever again. But there was good reason to stay home and on the couch. A, we got snow here on Saturday. B, you had a lot of stuff going on. So here's all the things I learned this weekend by sitting on my couch and watching Sports for America. Number one, here's what I learned after watching another just stupid basketball game in which there's no defense and there's a bunch of ball hogs on the court, and it doesn't resemble any basketball game I've ever watched. Major League Baseball All-Star Game is now officially the only All-Star game worth watching. That's what I learned again this week.
It's the only one you're going to watch.
No, I watch them all because it's my job, and I'm America's eyes.
We appreciate
that.
As
you know,
Thank
that's
you
right. Because you guys don't have time to watch everything. But like, it's the only game that is played like the game we see on a random Tuesday night.
I think that's fair to say. I mean, happiness is a function of expectations. My expectations for the All-Star game are so low now that this is what I expect. I expect them to walk through it and to see some highlights.
But the game is never going to be competitive unless the guys decide to compete, right? They're so worried about getting injured in an exhibition game, especially with contracts and incentives on the line. They don't want to risk it all for an All-Star game.
Well, the answer to the All-Star game problems, and I've said it on this show many times, is very simple. USA versus the world. You set that up, and you've got yourself at least kind of like the Ryder Cup in golf, the Olympics to a different extent. If I'm an American, I do not want to lose to the world. And you could put together a pretty badass team on both sides, obviously.
Yeah, you could.
And I would do you one better. While I'm talking about USA versus the world, and maybe the guys can give me a list later in the show, don't sleep on Canada.
Oh, yeah. To the Canada. I think
Canada?
we should claim Canada. I want SGA. What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Dude, I could put together a starting five of Canadian-born players that would beat the USA and that could beat the world. Now, it could go both ways, obviously, but Canada, quite sneakily, has developed some badass NBA players.
They really have. And the USA versus the world, I think, would be a lot of fun.
It'd be a lot of
fun. I think there are some internal questions with it, but it'd be a better product than what we have now. And the world would probably be favored to win.
Yeah.
They're probably favored to win right now.
Now,
if you think about it.
I could put together a badass USA team.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
you got Luka
KD,
Doncic, you got Jokic, Doncic, and Giannis. Like,
Yeah, the question is, does Embiid play for America or not? Because I know he would want to, but he's not born here. So he's one of those guys. Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the best young players, if not the MVP of the league right now.
Right.
Obviously not born here, but USA versus the world. And I'm going to talk to Adam Silver later today about that and see if we can make that happen.
He's up.
All right, second thing I learned this weekend is that Milwaukee Bucks head coach Doc Rivers is the biggest snake in the
What?
grass.
Not
I don't
Doc.
care if it's tall grass or little grass. That dude is a cobra. So obviously they're off to a 3-7 start.
Yep.
With Doc Rivers as the head coach.
I love this sound.
6 of those 7 games, they've blown double-digit leads
Not good.
in the second half. They went from the second best record in all of basketball to firing their coach to bringing that snake in the grass in, and now they're 4 games under 500 since he became head coach. But it's not Doc Rivers' fault.
No.
It's not his fault, Craig.
It's never his
not his
fault.
fault.
Listen to Doc Rivers
love the
at a
sound.
press conference yesterday. Go ahead, guys.
Taking a job when you're about to go on the toughest road trip of the season is not the smartest decision. I even told them that. Can we wait till All-Star break? You know, it would have been a lot nicer. I've been in Milwaukee 4 days. You know, I've had the job for 3 weeks. So it's been difficult. It's been probably more difficult than I thought.
It's been difficult. Second best record in all of basketball. Now, their bugaboo is that they were not a good defensive team.
Right.
They were giving up about $120 a game, but they were just outscoring everybody. And now he's saying, look, you can't blame me. I took over the job before the toughest road trip. Like, dude, you're the second best team in basketball.
It's still an adjustment, Craig. You can't
Oh,
just step into the
my
car
God.
and expect it's going to move as officially it has been.
He showed up. He's
Why
like,
don't-
this is so relatable. He just doesn't want to work. They called him and offered him a job. He's like, can we just push this for a couple months?
And by the way-
they're like, you're going to be the All-Star head coach.
I don't think that's
He's like,
at
I don't want
all.
to be the All-Star head coach.
And I don't think they just called him. He was working that knife as much as he could, recognizing, hey, I was a failure in Philly. I want to get back to that limited success I had in Boston. This is the squad to do it
Why
with.
aren't you giving Doc a pass? Like, why are
Because
you
Doc
so
Rivers is a snake in the grass, and I don't appreciate snakes in my grass. That's why. Oh, wow.
I think he makes a valid point. Only 3 weeks on the job. He has to get acclimated to the team. A lot has happened within the team. You lose Adrian Griffin, who a lot of people from the outside thought he was doing a good job. You talking
He
about
had
him?
the second best
Right,
record in
and so
basketball.
Doc, with his pedigree and his resume, we expect him to be
I'll say
better.
this team is going to be a great playoff team. This team is going to be a great
but he
playoff
even admitted it's not about the now, it's about the end result. Where
Yeah,
they end
but
up
the
at
problem
end of
is
the
the now, because that's all we got. I agree they're a tough out in a 7-game series, and right now, maybe only the Boston Celtics would beat them in a 7-game series until the Knicks get healthy, and then we can have that conversation. But when you go 3-7, sorry, not sorry, it's on you.
about the road trip. I've only been in Milwaukee 4 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying we got to give him time to stew. Let him
And I got
stew a
one
little
more
bit.
for you,
will.
something I learned this weekend, and I want you to make note of this. Today is February, whatever it is. Calvin Ridley will be a free agent this year in the next couple of weeks, and will be one of the biggest free agent signings this offseason. Why do I say that? Obviously, he was a huge part of the Jaguar offense as a complimentary wide receiver for Trevor Lawrence. But here's a little ditty that no one paid attention to. If the Jacksonville Jaguars re-sign him, they have to give the Atlanta Falcons their second-round pick this year. So the question now becomes, are we going to give Calvin Ridley, after a good year, maybe not a great year, but certainly a good year, am I going to give him the 3 or 4 year contract for buku bucks that he wants and lose a second-round draft pick to do it? Or am I going to just flip around and go, I'll find another credible wide receiver, whether it's in the draft or not, but I don't want to give up that type of draft capital. Calvin Ridley will be released by the Jaguars.
Yeah, he's going to be gone because you still have Christian Kirk, you got Evan Ingram, and obviously you got Trevor Lawrence. But overall, you're not going to you're not going to put all that on.
And let me tell you where he's going to go, since I'm ahead of the game on this anyway.
Oh, thanks, Craig.
Calvin Ridley will be a Kansas City Chief.
Oh, wow.
Chiefs?
Consider all the drops
44
the Chiefs
drops.
had during the regular season. 44 drops. Kadarius Toney's obviously going to be cut. He ain't coming back. And when you talk about them going for the three-peat, there is no doubt one of the things missing is another credible wide receiver. They also have to sign Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed. But don't be surprised if you start hearing rumors that Calvin Ridley is going to the Kansas City Chiefs.
I love it so much. The rest of the AFC is going to be so upset when the Chiefs upgrade that wide receiver.
All right, we got your headlines coming up in just a moment. We obviously have all the All-Star festivities from the weekend, and we have some Dallas Cowboy news. Plus, LeBron James is 50-50 on something. We'll tell you what that something is and which side we think he's going to go right after this.
Good morning! Welcome back to the Carton Show. We have your early morning headlines, and we start with the NBA All-Star Weekend. You saw Mac McClung dunking. There is Sabrina Ionescu hitting shots. There was the All-Star game last night where they scored 7,453 points combined. Craig, what was your impression of the weekend's festivities?
First off, I love the LED court. I'm down with that. I like that.
Started in Europe.
Keeps my mind busy the entire game. Look, it's the same thing we've been complaining about for a long time now, that it's not basketball. It's just up and down, who can dunk, who's going to take, 40-foot threes and all that. And I know Adam Silver tried to change it this year by going back to East versus West, getting rid of the Elam scoring at the end. There's a specific number you're trying to get to for those of you that haven't paid attention to it. But it doesn't matter. You're never going to get this game back to where it was in kind of the nostalgic, 80s and 90s, where in the fourth quarter at least, guys decided to man up and play basketball, and I try to stop you, and you try to score against me, one-on-one. And the only way to do that is either to financially incentivize them or put something on it that the guys want to win. And the only thing I have in that regard, because money's money, if you said $1 million to every player on the winning team, you're still talking about guys that are making $50 million a year. So I'm not even sure if that's enough of a financial incentive. But I think what would be, because we've seen it done successfully in other sports, is make it jingoistic. Make it USA versus the world.
Yep.
The world's got a good enough team. They could win that game. USA's obviously got a good enough team. They could win that game. But now you're playing in theory, at least for the American side, for your country. Everyone else will be playing for the rest of the world. And I think you can create some agita that way and some emotion that way, where if I'm, LeBron, Steph Curry, KD, pick your favorite American superstar, do I want to go out and lose to the rest of the world? One of the reasons we got the Redeem team, one of the great Olympic basketball teams, is because we embarrassed ourselves on the national scale and didn't win and lost to European squads. And then the question was, has the European game surpassed the American game? The late Kobe Bryant talked about it, obviously well before his death, that one of the reasons the European game and European players are now invading the NBA and dominating is because they learn how to play the fundamentals growing up. They're not about dunks and highlights and TikTok videos. They're about, this is how you play the game. So I think if you went USA versus the world, you would not get what we got last night. And let's be honest, there are moments last night where it's very entertaining, very exciting, and it's an athletic display that very few humans on the planet could ever pull off. So I'm respectful of that. Like, for example, when I watched Dame Lillard pull up, no exaggeration, from 50 feet.
So stupid.
And nothing but net on a jump shot. Like, that wasn't a heave like the three of us would have to try to reach. Here's a dude taking a jump shot from damn near 50 feet, nothing but net, not once. Let me do it twice. So, as a fan of basketball, that's Harlem Globetrotter stuff. I can't get enough of it. But from a guy who wants to see a game of basketball with the greatest players on the planet, I didn't get that. And outside of financial incentives or giving you something that you don't want to lose, because I've seen some other ideas out there, create 4 teams of 6, have a round-robin tournament. I've seen someone else have the idea, let's do some one-on-one stuff, which the players would never agree to. No. So how do I incentivize them to want to play a real game of basketball? USA versus the world is the last thing they can try.
Yeah, but I think this speaks to like the bigger culture within the NBA, right? Everybody's buddy-buddy. Everybody knows hangs out with each other. Everybody knows each other. Everybody wants to go to each other's weddings and go on vacation together. But I think if you speak to 90s basketball, the rivalries are gone, right? Like you looked forward to seeing Shaq versus David Robinson or Magic versus Mike. That all happened in the All-Star game. These guys competed because their egos and pride was on the line. That's no longer the issue. What the issue is when you see your star playing LeBron James sit out the second half because of a bum ankle, right? That's what it is. Guys are more worried about the health and their longevity than actually saying to themselves, you know what? Here's the All-Star game. Well, look, the best is on the court. Let's figure it out and fight it out.
The players are different now. Not that they're any less, competitive and all that, because you're talking about some of the great players of any generation playing right now. But the difference is whether it's the money part of it, the fame part of it, and the injury part of it. We talk glowingly with great nostalgia about what it was like. For me as a kid, the 1980s were special, and I didn't miss a second of All-Star Weekend, even into the 90s. Going into college and all that. The difference is that you had Michael and Larry and Magic and Tim and, David Robinson and Dominique Wilkins and all the great players. They took pride in representing their cities, their teams, and themselves throughout All-Star Weekend, whether that was the three-point shootout, whether that was the dunk contest, and especially on Sunday evening when they played the All-Star game, those guys didn't want to lose to the other great stars.
To their rivals.
And the matchups you're talking about, even early in Kobe's career in the NBA, more so in the fourth quarter, but when you got to the fourth quarter, you got 12 minutes of real basketball.
So there's a few things at hand here. Larry Joe Bird, one of my heroes, one of my favorite athletes of all time. He's there because obviously the host city is Indiana. He's from Indiana. And he spoke and he said, you've got a collection of the best basketball players in the world. All of the best players in the world are coming together, putting uniforms on and playing a game of basketball. How could you not be competitive? He's like, just be competitive because he wants to prove that he is the best. The best is one of the things that drives him. And I feel like we don't have that same drive to prove yourself at the All-Star game the way they used to prove themselves. They're already proven. One second. One thing that really was disappointing from the weekend. We know the All-Star game is the exhibition game. The dunk contest. Like what? You're still dunking. You can't have time to practice. Like it just seems like ever since the Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon one, I have not seen a dunk contest worthy of our time.
It's not like the college dunk contest is much better because they're doing dunks we've never seen or thought of before. But one of the greatest games ever played is a game that none of us saw. We've seen highlights of it, and it's the Dream Team practicing. And there's the legendary story that they lost the game to the college All-Stars first, and they actually wiped off the scoreboard before the press showed up because they don't want anybody to know that they got waxed by Bobby Hurley and this great college team that went in. But with the video that came out of that we've all seen, so pardon me for telling you something you may have seen already, was the Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan passing of the torch. That those practices became real games. And it was ego, and it was, I'm better than you, I'm better than you. And you had 10 of the greatest players to ever play basketball going at it at the highest level possible in an empty gymnasium with no money on the line, no fans watching, just personal pride. And it was at those games where Magic Johnson now famously said, here's the torch. It's your league now. Michael Jordan became, the world's greatest basketball player in that gym against Magic Johnson, who didn't want to relinquish the title of the face of the NBA. So we know these guys have it in them. The question is, why don't they care enough to give us a real basketball game?
Because what you're speaking to, you're not getting that clout from popularity. You're getting it from man on man, right? Like when you're in one-on-one, like even in practice, when somebody's saying they're better than you, it's different when you're in the field, in between the lines, my helmet against your helmet. Now it's man versus man. When that's earned, there's nothing that can be taken from you, right? You've seen it first.
I'll give you an example. So one of the great moments this weekend was Sabrina Ionescu, who's one of the great women's players, plays for the Liberty, right, here in Brooklyn, going head-to-head as a one-off against the greatest shooter of all time. And she had 26 points, and she went first. You know full well when Steph Curry got to that last rack of balls, not just was it over, he cared. He didn't want to lose. And obviously he's the greatest shooter of all time. He didn't lose. But that was a real competition. I didn't think it was going to be, frankly, going into it. but that was a real competition. And when he looked up at the scoreboard and said, "Oh, 26,"
I gotta show up.
and now it was close. He's coming around.
Shouldn't have gone out last
Yeah.
night.
So the point is, you can get it. You just got to tell the guys to care about it. And
But
today,
then what you're asking,
they
you
don't
have to
care.
tell the best of the best to care about.
But they don't. They don't.
There's always moments in the All-Star game that I just get so much joy from because of how much fun they're having out there. And this is this one Luka Doncic play that just has to be celebrated. He gets a dunk. And remember, this man is 6'9".
Yeah.
Okay? He is a 6'9" player, one of the best 5 basketball players on the planet Earth. And this is him on a breakaway alone. Oh, you're 6'9", Luka. You are 6'9".
And then you put your hands on your knees like if you're.
Yeah.
Like
You talked about drinking the night before?
Oh,
Yeah.
He wanted to throw up right there halfway up. He's like, oh, throw up right now.
He also made some trick shots in practice that I've never seen before from half court.
Stupid.
Where he was throwing the ball 50 feet in the air and bouncing it in, like calling it. It's
insane.
crazy. Anyhow, look, I know this is somewhat repetitive because it's the same thing every year. And I'm sure Adam Silver, much like Roger Goodell and Gary Bettman and Rob Manfred, is trying to figure out, how do I make this better? How do I make this competitive? And again, outside of money, USA versus the world.
But what's crazy too,
is the only
unfortunately, I
shot
know we
you
got to pivot. They get 6 days off after this.
Yeah, they play Thursday, right?
Right. So like you have time to heal up or rest up. It's not like you're going right back into action.
What else you got, Jacob?
Moving on to our second headline that involves LeBron James. There's obviously some media availability over the weekend. And LeBron was asked about sort of the end of his career and whether he sees himself abruptly leaving in the middle of the night, sort of like Tim Duncan did, or going on a farewell tour. And here's how he addressed that question.
I'm 50-50. I'm going to be honest, because there's times where I feel like I guess I owe it to my fans that's been along this journey with me for 2 decades plus. I've never been that great with accepting, like, praise. It's a weird feeling for me.
Okay.
But I am a Laker, and I am happy and been very happy being a Laker the last 6 years, and hopefully it stays that way.
I don't think anyone believed him. Like Savannah, his wife, was just like, what are you doing, LeBron? Like, there's not a single person that believes that he's 50-50. I love the fact that he's like, I think I owe it to my fans.
Yeah,
I'm
sure
going to sacrifice a year for you guys.
There is no way he's going out without begging people to give him his presents and trophies.
He's not good at accepting
and
praise.
rocking chairs and cars.
He hates
Yeah,
getting
he
praise.
hates the attention. Yeah, okay. Sure.
Yeah.
All that guy likes is attention. And there's no way he's enjoyed his 6 years in L.A. He doesn't have a single real championship since he's been there. And he's got more years out of the playoffs, or at least out of the top 6, than he does actually in the top 6 since he became a Laker. But the notion that LeBron James is 50-50 on a retirement tour, shut up.
Yeah, didn't Kobe also tell him to, like, if you do retire, whenever you choose to, like, record the whole thing, right? Like there
will be a documentary on
Yeah.
his final season for sure.
Oh, yeah, for
100%.
sure.
Yes, there'll be a Netflix special on it, and it'll be a 9-part,
This man has been in the
the
spot-
end, all that stuff.
Yeah, he's been in the spotlight since 13 years old. He will have a tour.
Yeah, and here's what bothers me. Look, he's one of the great players of all time. If you'd say he's going to get a retirement tour, fine, all good, right? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar started that, of course, when he was retiring, and part of that was because he had lost everything in a fire. So a lot of teams wanted to make sure he had stuff because he lost almost everything he owned in a terrible house fire. That being said, how in the world, I'm a diehard Knicks fan, and we've seen this in other sports with other teams, and I'm going to be very consistent. I hate it. Like when the New York Mets
You hate the tour?
honored the legacy of Chipper Jones. I'm saying to myself, he owned you guys.
Yes, he did.
Why would you give that guy a video and a car?
And the finish,
right?
LeBron scores 60 in the guard. LeBron scores
Yeah.
55 in the guard.
Yeah.
LeBron takes out the
And he
Knicks
said he
once
wouldn't
again.
come to New York.
So to me, like, if I'm just selfishly, if and when he announces this is my last season, and he's going to be honored in every venue he plays in throughout that year, and rightfully so, arguably the second greatest player in the history of the sport, all good, right? Leading scorer, all that stuff, right? But as a Knicks fan, the guy had a chance to change the direction of my franchise when he first left Cleveland and went to Miami with The Decision, right? And we embarrassed ourselves putting together a video of celebrities. I was one of them in the video. That's like, hey, LeBron.
Where you want to?
Yeah, come to New York. Whatever. It's embarrassing.
This makes a lot of sense
I don't
now.
like to get
A
into
lot of things are starting to make more sense now.
How do we not have that footage?
Yeah, because nobody has that footage. That being the case, the guy turned his back on me then. Then when he left Miami, went back to Cleveland, turned his back on me again. Then he went to L.A., turned his back on me again. And he only plays at the Garden once a year. You think that I'm going to sit there on the court, which is where I sit, and honor the legacy of a guy that spurned me 3 times?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I ain't doing
You're
it.
going to do
I'll say this. One thing I will say about the farewell tours, I was lucky enough to be in the building for Kobe Bryant's last game at the then Staples Center.
Okay.
When he scored 60. And that was such a magical moment.
I'm
It was
sure.
absolutely nuts. And we were way up in the nosebleeds. It was such a great experience because you knew it was his last game.
Yeah.
And I do think that, like, you kind of do owe us that. You
Well,
kind
but
of
Kobe,
let us know.
but he did it at home.
Yeah.
For the team he played his entire career for. LeBron James has screwed the Knicks multiple times. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be honored. He does. Great player, but not in my building. And I know Spike Lee's going to be out there dressed like a pumpkin, like he always is, cheering him on. And all the fake celebrities who are suddenly basketball fans are going to be sitting there. I'll tell you right now, I sit on my ass.
So if
I
you're in
don't
the
get up.
building, you're not standing up.
I am not standing up.
You're going to stand
to
up.
celebrate.
Greg, stop lying.
Come on,
To
give me the
celebrate.
only
When
person
LeBron
there with
comes
your
to
arms
center court
crossed.
and they give the crowd, and when the whole building stand up, you're going to be like, not me.
No,
It's going to be a
me.
silent protest.
Why leave the house if that's what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Because I'm Big Show Bob. I like to be a big event.
The big one.
But I sit right on my ass and I go.
So you're just going to wait for the camera to look at you
I
protesting?
wait. That's
Yeah,
right.
okay.
I do a silent protest honoring LeBron James in my building over my dead body. I'll sit right in Bernard King's lap. And I'll be like, I'm not doing it, Bernard. That's right. Well, I'll sit next to Bernard. He may not like me sitting on
Right.
his lap. He's got his own seat. I got my own seat.
Well, that's good.
That's right. I'll be right there between Victor Cruz and Fat Joe being like,
Salt.
yeah.
Moving on to our final headline, let's turn our attention to the Dallas Cowboys. Micah Parsons, again, was in front of a microphone, and he spoke about what the culture and identity of the Cowboys is and what it is not. Here is the star linebacker for the Cowboys.
You should never go into a game like I'm tired, like I'm ready to go home. Because that's exactly what's going to happen, and it did happen. I'm coming to the game every week like, man, I got 4 more weeks left. I don't know what y'all got, but I got 4 more weeks left. Like, that's part of the culture and identity that I just feel like we're missing. Like, that's just something like I don't agree with at all.
Okay. Seems like he's pointing the finger at his teammates.
Yeah,
he's talking about the culture and
100%.
identity, and he's got to be a part of it as a leader. What is your response to that?
Well, I'm glad that with 4 weeks left, he knows he's only playing 4 more games, and they're not going to be successful
Well, he
in
made
the
the playoff run, I
season.
think, yeah.
So I'm glad to see he's honest, like everybody else. But that's an indictment of the locker room. It's an indictment of the coaching staff as well, because if he noticed that in the moment, and I'll take him at his word that he did, then the coaching staff has to notice that as well. And as a coaching staff, if you're Mike McCarthy and you're aware that you've got guys who, my word's not his, but are mailing it in and are not fully committed to the rest of the road, the rest of the trip to try to win a Super Bowl, and you don't do anything about it, he's right. You have a culture problem. What's interesting about that is we heard about those types of problems in the Philadelphia locker room this past year as they were losing down the stretch. You know, the Dallas Cowboys never experienced that, losing 5 out of 6 games. They answered the bell every single time we questioned, are they that team? And they won every single game at home. And they rebounded very well after the bad loss to Arizona, for example, and even after the bad loss to San Francisco. So it's interesting to me that here we are, 2 months essentially after the season ended for them, month and a half, and now he's talking about how the Cowboys have a culture problem and an identity problem. And I'm starting to think that Micah Parsons is starting to talk his way out of Dallas.
Whoa, Craigie.
Well, the comment comes after DeMarcus Lawrence had made a comment talking about he was maybe tired during that playoff run, well, the lack of, because they didn't get past the first round. But when it comes to culture, man, a lot, and we've seen him talk about it, Emmitt Smith talk about it. one thing about being part of the Pittsburgh Steelers culture is everything. And it doesn't start with just the 6 Super Bowl trophies. It started with seeing Franco Harris and Joe Green and Mel Blount. Those guys are always around us. And they talked about the torch they had to carry and what it meant for that city and what it meant for the citizens in that city. So for these guys right now, it seems like they lost tap of what it means to just be a Cowboy, right? Everything that's been earned.
Yeah, but I'm going to push back on that for a minute because we hear that a lot. What does it mean to be a Cowboy? What does it mean? They haven't won a damn thing in 30 years. So what does it mean to be a Cowboy? And I know Dallas is great, much like the Steelers are, in honoring their past and having the legends always open door policy, invited to come back, whether it's Troy or Michael or, Emmett, whomever it might be. But we have this notion of, what does the Cowboy star stand for?
Correct.
And to me, and I'm not a Cowboy fan, it don't stand for nothing because it's not equated to success. You haven't been to a Super Bowl in 30 years. So what's the Cowboy standard that we're concerned about? It doesn't exist.
I think it's Super Bowl expectations. I think the Cowboys every year have Super Bowl expectations.
But they shouldn't.
There's 32 teams in the league. There's probably 10 teams that start the season saying we have to go to the Super Bowl or this is a failure.
I think you're right about that part.
That's what the Cowboys
but
sort of think.
I think there's this kind of propped up, inflated expectation that we have because they're the most popular team from a fan base standpoint, and we don't look at it the way it really is. It's the comparison I made last week to New York City basketball. We talk about New York basketball like it is something, and the reality is that it's not. And I'm a big New York basketball guy. So to me, we've created this myth that the Dallas Cowboys equates to championships. They don't even get close to a championship. Like there are 30-year-old guys, paying their mortgages right now who have never seen the Dallas Cowboys in a Super Bowl, let alone in an NFC championship game. When's the last time that happened? 30 years ago.
But when you have guys like Irvin and Emmett and Aikman and all those guys talk about the glory.
They're dinosaurs, though.
At the end of the day, they lived it and they won, right? So those are the guys you have to be able to tap into.
But here's starting to wrap. But you're right. But the reality of talking about Michael Irvin, who's our colleague here, and Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman, and Moose Johnson and all those guys, they were part of the last, kind of Cowboy dynasty. They're dinosaurs.
Yeah, but you celebrate a franchise in New York Jets that, as a guy who played for the Jets, we didn't have that. Like, when I got into the New York Jets, we held on to the back-to-back AFC championships, right?
Yeah.
By the way, they lost.
That's right.
You get what I'm saying? So the fact that Micah Parsons, DeMarco Lawrence, who was with the franchise in 2014, talk about he's tired going into a playoff game is an indictment on the player, not necessarily the coach.
But I'm glad you brought up the Jets because here's a great point. We have no culture of winning.
That's my point.
At all.
No. But that's what Micah Parsons talking about. There is a culture there.
But there's not, and here's why.
You're 12-5 in the regular season.
But it's a culture of regular season winning. If the Dallas Cowboys are supposed to be that Super Bowl team, I'll give you a great example. You brought up my beloved Jets.
Yes.
The New York Jets have been to 3 AFC championship games. 3.
Right.
Since they went to their last one in the NFC. So there is no culture of winning. The culture of winning is Tom Landry and Jimmy Johnson. Tom Landry's been dead for 25 years, and Jimmy Johnson is now a Hall of Famer in the Cowboy Ring of Honor. They haven't been to a championship game in 30 years. You know what that means? That means an entire generation of Cowboy fans have no idea what it's like to play for a Super Bowl.
So we're not the only people talking about this. I'm glad you brought up Emmitt Smith because he also sort of spoke about the culture and what's expected as a Cowboy, and here's what he had to say.
Maybe my expectations for them is much greater than their own expectations for themselves. Focusing on one direction of excellence. That's the thing that coaches ask of us. Why shouldn't we ask those things of our coaches and the organization?
So it sounds like he's saying, as a Cowboy, someone who's done it before as a champion, my expectations are that from you.
Well, he's talking about commitment.
Are you even holding yourself to that?
Yeah, he's saying what he's saying is essentially what Mike is saying. That you have a problem in the locker room, a commitment to play every single week at your very best and not be tired and do all the off-season things you have to do and off-the-field conditioning and training and nutrition, all the stuff that you have to do these days to play at your peak level throughout and not take yourself off the field on 3rd and long in the 4th fourth quarter because you're winded. And Emmett's right. And the flip side is, if the organization expects it from you guys as players, then you guys have every right to expect it from your coaching staff. And I don't know how close Emmett is. I imagine he's still pretty close to the organization as one of its greatest players. To me, Emmitt Smith is now telling you, without saying the words, they have a coaching problem as much as they have a player problem, which is why Mike McCarthy goes into this season as a lame duck head coach, and barring an NFC Championship visit, which you can't predict now is going to happen, he will not be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys next year. And that's what Emmitt Smith is telling me.
It's obviously Super Bowl bust, but that's Jerry words, and I think he knows it and Dak knows it.
Another guy that might be changing zip codes next year is the embattled starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos.
Oh!
You got $25 million laying around?
Nope.
Well, if you did, I can tell you how to spend it in beautiful suburbs of Denver, Colorado. We'll get to that. And we have first football coming your way and much more from All-Star Weekend right here on FS1. This is the time of year where we learn a lot about the fan bases across the country when it comes to the NFL. And a study came out acknowledging that one fan base above all others in the NFL were the drunkest this past season.
Oh, boy.
Now you think?
Yeah, I was shocked by this. But it turns out it's not Philadelphia. And I couldn't believe that for a second.
I thought this is the one championship the Bills could win.
Okay.
Bills. I thought this is the one championship the Bills are going to win.
Well, they're not including LSD and diving into mud pits. So it turns out that the Tennessee Titans have the drunkest fan base in America. And the least drunken fan base, I was surprised by this also, is Kansas City.
Really?
Yeah. That's
Too much focus on winning.
That's what the study reveals. I would think it's cold. You're outside barbecuing.
Yeah.
That lends itself to a lot of pops. But it turns out that Kansas City, across the board, drink less than every other fan base in America. And when you consider the fact that they're so damn good and have won their third Super Bowl now in the Mahomes-Reed era, I would think they'd be partying all afternoon.
I think Travis Kelce swung that average, though, over the past week.
I
think Travis Kelce made up for all the lack of drinking that the
And
fans
by the way,
did.
quick story about Travis Kelce. To his credit, Travis Kelce wrote a $100,000 check to help the victims of the shooting at that parade. So while he was taking some heat for actually going to a bar and partying after the parade, the dude wrote a check. And not everybody writes a check. So good job there by Travis Kelce. Coming up in a little bit later this hour, my main man, Timmy Hardaway.
Timmy
is going to join us. Tim's a part of our show throughout the basketball season, and he will join us full-time in a couple of weeks. But we want to see Timmy. Definitely want to see him sweating on the elliptical this morning, which is what he does. A, because he's overweight, and B, because he's trying to get back into shape.
Welcome back, Tim.
He spends most mornings on the elliptical at the slowest possible speed. That being the case, we'll get to Timmy in a second. First, Jacoby's got first in football.
Now, I love this kind of news. Real estate news that involves athlete speculation. This is the latest. First in football, we start with Russell Wilson in Denver. This is his gigantic home. Only 4 bedrooms. I don't know how that's possible.
How?
But now his home is on the market. Now, we always speculate that means that he's leaving town. But in this case, this must mean that he's leaving town. He must know something that we don't, right?
Yeah, I think it all came out this past season when he acknowledged they came up to him and asked him to, say goodbye to the guarantee. And then they sat him so he wouldn't get hurt. So they'd have to give him $1 gazillion. My biggest concern, though, is how does a 16,000 square foot house only have 4 bedrooms?
That has to have more.
Now, I'll give you the answer to that question because I asked the question. I'm going to answer my own question. Some people don't want guests.
I like this.
Some people don't want family coming around.
I like this.
Look at the size of that. Only 4 bedrooms.
Hey, listen, honey, is it okay if my parents come over for the week? We only have 4 bedrooms. Can't fit them.
They got an indoor pool.
Smart.
Indoor basketball court. Lovely, lovely.
Russell Wilson might be the smartest athlete in America.
You sure you meant the man cave only has 4 bedrooms?
The closet's bigger than my entire
look, I didn't know that you could buy a $25 million house in Denver, having lived in Denver for a couple years of my life without Mark Schlereth's name being on the mailbox. And apparently it's not. So here's the deal. What he's basically hedging, right? He's hedging because he knows full well that Sean Payton is not a fan of his. Not that they have a quarterback answer. They don't, obviously, on that roster. But the mere fact that he's put the house up for sale tells you that whether they've told him privately or he's just reading the tea leaves, there's a better than 50-50 shot that Russell Wilson is not a Bronco. There's major cap implications of that. I don't want to get into all that with you right now. It's not easy just to say goodbye, Russell Wilson. There's damage done to your cap if you do it. But listen, if you bought a $25 million house, you don't sell those that quickly.
Oh, you bought it 18 months ago.
Yeah,
Right. Like, I don't know how easy it is to sell a $25 million house. So you might as well put it out there now and just see if anyone, takes a bite, right?
We will see. Moving on.
Here's the real question. I'm sorry. Let's just say that Russell Wilson's right. Let's say that, or he's been told we're going to cut you, or he just knows he's going to be cut. Here's the real question. Who would want him? Who would take
there's
Russell?
a couple teams out there.
I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But who? What team would say right now, and put money aside for a second?
Steelers,
If we just throwing it out there,
Put money
I
aside.
got 3 teams off the
Go.
rip. I'm going Oakland.
Vegas Raiders. Yep. Okay.
Steelers is definitely in there.
Okay.
And then, Falcons.
Those are the 3
100%.
teams right now. They're like, we need a starting quarterback.
So basically, the 3 teams that we've associated with the possibility of Justin Fields being traded to.
Of course.
Let me add another one. New England. Now, I know it's not Bill Belichick anymore, but I think you guys are right.
Yeah, New England's
if
a
you
good
put
one.
money aside and Russell Wilson is an unrestricted free agent, he gets a job in like a minute, right?
Correct.
Tennessee,
I think so.
Tennessee's a possible one.
So it'd be interesting. That's why if you're Russell Wilson, cut me. I'm good.
Go ahead.
Go ahead and cut me. I'll be just fine.
Don't threaten
the
me.
real question
Don't threaten me
is,
with going someplace unwanted.
like, Denver is a beautiful city. It
Yes,
really is.
yes.
Now, you have a beautiful wife. You've got a bunch of little kids running around. There's some places you may not want to go. Pittsburgh's one of them.
He has ties to Pittsburgh.
You think Ciara's like, oh, I can't wait to move to Pittsburgh. I heard they
I
put
think
French
he would
fries
love to
on
play
their
for
sandwiches.
Oh, yeah, they
No,
put French fries
no.
in the sandwiches in Pittsburgh.
No, he would love to
Put them
play
in
for
the
Pittsburgh.
sandwich.
Wait a minute. You mean I can have coleslaw and French fries on top
In
of
the
my
sandwich.
pastrami?
Not next to the sandwich.
Stop
You
it.
know he's going to be loved. Mike Tomlin loves him. It'll be great. I think he'll do well in Arthur Smith's office.
I will say this. If he went to a team like Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
that AFC North is crazy. Joe
100%.
Burrow's back. Obviously, Lamar Jackson,
Watson.
Deshaun Watson, and Russell Wilson.
Yeah, if they upgrade a quarterback, they have the team with the comprehensively the best 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah,
in
which
any
is
division.
also why if you're a team like the Steelers, who's going to be in the market for a quarterback, I think we all believe that, I may want to wait a little bit before I start talking about trading for Justin Fields, because if Russell Wilson becomes available and now I get him kind of quote-unquote on the cheap
for the low.
compared to what he was going to make, I might want to be patient and wait to see if it plays out that way.
In Chicago, they want to return for Justin Fields.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the other part too. I can get Russell Wilson for nothing.
Well, here's an interesting little news and notes here from the NFL, segment
ahead.
of football. This is David Bakhtiari. Obviously, we associate him
God.
always as the left tackle for the Green Bay Packers. But he may no longer be the left tackle for the Green Bay Packers. There are rumors and reports that he's expected to be released. Now, Craig, Sweets put him right in the Jets, right? Put him right in the Jets.
If Aaron wants him,
Put him right in the Jets.
Look, I know Aaron wants him, and Aaron runs the franchise. Look, the concern about Bakhtiari is that he's injured.
Yeah.
He's only played, you saw it there earlier on the bottom of your screen, in like a dozen games in the last couple of years. So that's the concern. And knowing the way things go for the Jets,
Sounds perfect for the Jets.
they'd sign him to be the starting guard, which tackle,
That
pardon me,
left tackle, yeah.
left tackle, which we desperately need because Micah Becton ain't that guy anymore, and Dwayne Brown's 90 years old and got Aaron Rodgers killed in the first place. So would I
that's
want
not
that?
fair.
It's fair.
Stop
Still
doing
live.
that to that
It's
man.
Still live.
So I want to be clear. Would I like Bakhtiari? Yes. He's an upgrade
don't.
from what I got. Here's the downside. A 31-year-old left tackle who can't stay on the field. So what am I really getting
Sounds
out of it?
perfect.
And that's the difference here between a guy like that is I got the guy who I've seen be really good versus the guy that he is now. And you can't promise me that he's playing 14 games out of 17,
No.
let alone all 17. So now you're going to find out again how much control and say does Aaron Rodgers have in the decisions the Jets make. Now, he's not been let go yet, but there's enough smoke out there for us to believe he's going to be let go. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He is 31. He has been injured a lot the last 2-3 years. But we all believe that Aaron Rodgers runs the franchise. I'd be shocked if Bakhtiari is not a New York Jet.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much my story how I ended up with Jets. I was an injury-prone lineman that landed in New York. So I get the story. But at the end of the day, man, it comes down to Aaron. Aaron wants him, he's going to get him.
And period, stop.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's what it is.
Aaron Rodgers is like, look, I told you I'd come back and play a couple more years and get this thing right. And by the way, I saved your job, Joe Douglas.
Yeah.
I saved your job, Robert Saleh. I want David Bakhtiari.
It's just, so you guys are mostly invested in the Jets, and I love that. I'm a little jealous of it. But let me just say this. From the outside looking in, this is just so Jets. They signed him. Aaron Rodgers wants him. And then week 2, he gets hurt. He's out for the season. It's like you can see it before it happens.
You also got to say from New York Jets standpoint, like Vera Tucker, he's dealing with the whole Achilles thing.
Vera Tucker,
they don't have a dominant or a veteran guy in that room right now. Joe Tippmann is probably the eldest of the room, and he's a rookie, right? He's coming off his rookie year. So it's a situation where if you're the New York Jets, you get a guy who's been there, done that, can actually give this room some leadership. Because who knows what's going on with Tomlinson at the left guard position.
Here's the deal, though. The Jets will not be the only team that wants him.
No.
There'll be other teams that want him, knowing that he's been injured, and you probably get him cheaper than what he's commanded the last couple of years in Green Bay. But if Aaron Rodgers wants him, he's a Jet.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the way, if you're Bakhtiari, you obviously want to play with Aaron Rodgers because that's your boy. Not that there are other teams that are in better situations, because God knows there are. But if I'm Bakhtiari, and that's my dude, and I've played with him for a decade, and he comes calling, I'm going to do exactly what Alan Lazard did. Pay me as much as you can, and I'm going to be a Jet.
They're going to draft a lineman, too, so it'd be nice to have Bakhtiari, a vet there, to help sort of grow.
Look, we did it with Alan Faneca back in the day. Mm-hmm. We did it with you back in the day. That didn't work out all that well. But we keep trying, Willie. We keep trying.
Keep swinging. Just keep swinging.
That's why we sing a song here. It's just the same. Hey. Oh, Jets. Yeah. You know full well he's going to be a Jet starting left tackle.
Week 4, he's out.
Week 4?
Yeah.
Play 4. And it's going to be a little turnstile. He ruins his tricep again and tears the pectoral muscle. And Aaron Rodgers is on the ground going, what?
They'll probably be roommates. You got enough room. Aaron has a big house, too.
Aaron Rodgers has more than 4 bedrooms.
That's true.
Probably
That's a fact.
You know that Aaron Rodgers has a security guard, a former cop, who sits outside the front of his house 24 hours, 7 days a week in an unmarked car blocking his driveway?
You really?
Yep.
How do you know that, Craig?
What happened?
Okay.
How's that guy stay awake?
Maybe.
Wait, just,
all right.
Let me guess. You try to turn around the driveway?
Right.
You met this gentleman?
I know where you live.
Yeah.
It is nowhere close to Aaron Rodgers, Craig.
Yeah. That's very true. Yeah, we're in different zip codes for sure.
Whoops.
No, true story. He has an unmarked car in the front of his house 24/7 so that nobody drives up his driveway and rings his doorbell. Because he's a man of the people.
Yeah.
It's not the same guy. There's like a rotating shift.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's 8-hour shifts of 3 guys.
I'm just curious how you know.
Huh?
We have to keep track.
There are times I go for leisurely drives across the beautiful state of New Jersey.
Yeah. Are you taking a night shift?
Yeah, you
Are you on rotation?
You're taking one of the 3 guys. Seem to know a lot about the gig.
Yeah.
Well, let me see what's coming up next. It's almost like if you don't want any attention, don't have the guy sitting outside your house, right?
Well, are you surprised?
No, I'm not.
Thank you.
He also didn't give out candy during Halloween, which I have a real problem with.
Oh, that's a big problem.
Yeah. By the way, when I lived in Denver, front page story on the Rocky Mountain News was the fact that John Elway, quarterback of the Denver Broncos, didn't give out the large pieces of candy, gave out little candy. And the community criticized him for it. You're John Elway. Give out bigger candy. Aaron Rodgers gave out no candy.
Right.
He's not a man of the people.
He also doesn't care.
All right, let's take a break because my main man, Tim Hardaway, the Hall of Famer, makes his return to the show, and everybody's been waiting for it. Look at him sweat. Look at him sweating. There you go. Timmy's next. Hang on. It's the Carton Show. There's Mac McClung, the greatest dunker, apparently, from coast to coast in the United States of America. And there's Sabrina Ionescu, the second greatest shooter, apparently, in all of America, next to that guy right there, Mr. Steph Curry, which brings me to the man, the myth, the legend, the Hall of Famer, and our buddy, Tim! Mr. Tim Hardaway Sr. is how you say now. Timmy, how you been there, pal?
I'm good, man. I'm missing y'all. Y'all having too much fun without me.
Well, in 2 weeks, Tim will be joining us right in between Willie and Jacoby right there on a daily basis throughout the rest of the NBA season, much like last year. So, Tim, a couple things from All-Star Weekend. First and foremost, when you watch a 6-foot-tall G League player named Mac McClung dominate your boys in the NBA when it comes to the dunk contest. What's your immediate take on that?
I wish more All-Stars that play in the All-Star game be in the dunk contest. I want LeBron to be in the dunk contest. I want not Jaylen Brown, but Tatum to be in the dunk contest. I want those guys to be in the contest to make it more exciting. I think this guy right here, Mac, I can't take nothing away from him.
Yeah,
cannot take nothing. 6 foot tall, and you could do stuff like that, and imagine to do stuff and come up with different things. Creativity. I'm not taking nothing away from him, but I want more All-Stars that play in the game to be in the dunk contest.
Yeah, do you think there's ever a moment where the great stars of the league actually get together over a couple of drinks or at a club or a dinner and say to themselves, which one of you guys is in for next year? Because we can't let Mac McClung win a 3rd consecutive dunk contest.
You would think that. You would think that. I hope so. I hope that, a bunch of them, 5, 6 of them get together and be like, yo, we cannot let that happen next year.
Yeah.
We got a G League guy that's not in the NBA. They bring him up from the G League to come and play it or do a dunk contest in the NBA on All-Star Weekend. That's, to me, that's a slap in my face as a player or as a dunker that I go out there and I can beat him.
Yeah, the guy's made more money in dunk contests than he has actually playing the sport of basketball. Obviously, last night you get a crazy score. As the East scores over 200 points. The West scores damn near $190. And, of course, it's the same thing for almost the last decade, to be fair, where we come on the day after, we're all yelling and screaming about how that's not real basketball. How come the guys don't give a damn? How come there's no competitive juices flowing where guys want to stop the other guy? And obviously, you had, Towns scored 50 last night. 5 guys said over 30 last night. And I'm wondering for you, because you kind of cross over. You played in an era where you guys gave a damn about who won the All-Star game and how you played. And also as a guy that's still connected to the game through your son, who's an active player, and you're continuing work with the NBA. How do you fix it? How do you make the All-Star game something that if we can't quite capture what we had in the 80s and 90s, how do you change this game so that we get an actual basketball game?
Great question. We've been talking about this all day. Dominique, Mitch Richmond, myself. We was talking about that last night during the game, after the game, and we was trying to figure out how can we help Adam Silver in the NBA and the league, come up with something to fix this type of basketball. I will say, I don't know. I don't have the right answer, the correct answer.
Let me give you an idea. Let me give you an idea. Tell me if you like it.
No. You don't. No. You no.
I've got an idea.
No. Your ideas, no.
Here we go. I'm going to give it to you anyway.
Your ideas don't resonate towards real basketball.
Here we go. You ready? Here's the idea. And you're actually going to like it. You're going to be surprised for the first time in 2 years that you agree with me. Here's what you do. Here we go. USA versus the world. Yahtzee.
I came up with that already. I came up with that. I did. Mitch Richmond and Dominique, we was like, what about the world versus America? Maybe that will get. We know what the world gonna do. Them guys, they gonna come out and play basketball. They gonna come out and play defense because they want to show everybody that they're the best, or they want to be the best. And then you got the Americans. We gonna have to come out and show them like, no, you all not the best. But yeah, it's got to be something that we can do to get it more exciting again. We took pride. Like I told Mitch, I said, Mitch, when you played and you won that MVP, it was like you had to work for the MVP. Nobody like you. You didn't have to. You came up down and just shot. You had to run. They had to run plays for you. They had to run picks. They had to run down screens. We was following you and shadowing you, and sometimes we doubled you, and you played the game. We was out there playing the game. That's how you won MVP. I say you after the MVP, you was icing down for real, like it was a real game. I mean, like now it's like these guys running up and down 50 points. 200 points in a game, that's we was looking at it, we was like, wow, and some young people when they coming in to the hotels after the game, they like, I say, how you enjoy it? They say, I wish guys play more defense. I wish they'd go out there and play, but I mean, it's all about health now, and it's all about staying healthy.
It's funny, Tim. We've all seen the videos back in the day, when Kobe was a rookie, and Michael's, talking about him in the locker room and trying to shut him down and make him feel the pain as the first-time All-Star. We all know about, the ice-out game, which changed the relationship, obviously, between Isaiah Thomas and Mike forever. You know that story as well as anybody.
Yes, I know that story.
Right? You want to share that story with people who don't know? Go ahead.
Yeah, it was in Seattle. Mike's first game, and I just heard about it. I wasn't there, but I heard about it. Isaiah had him go to the different bus, and had him come late too. So it was a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, it was that's really where it started with Mike and Isaiah.
Yeah, so Isaiah was playing tricks with him and then told the other guys, don't give him the ball. Like, we're going to freeze him out of an all-star game. And that, of course, years later, when Mike said Isaiah Thomas is not on the dream team, that was part of the reason why. We got more NBA to talk with Timmy coming up. Before we take a break, though, and talk about some of the current stuff happening as we get ready for the second half, I am concerned about you because I love you. But, the amount of sweat coming off your dome on that elliptical at 1.0, I get concerned, Timmy. I get concerned.
No. That's I bring it back down. That's my time where I just, I'm cruising in. It's over with. My workout is over with.
All right.
Very consistent. Very consistent.
I'm checking. All right. Tim Hardaway's going to stay for one more segment from the All-Star game to the second half of the NBA. Tim will go over a couple of the big questions we have going into the second half, including, are you surprised that Minnesota and Oklahoma City right now are dominating the West? And can the Knicks make a run in the East? We got some hoops to talk about with Tim Hardaway, and we will ask him his thoughts on honoring LeBron James if and when he decides to hang him up. Lots more hoops coming your way right after this on FS1. And happy to say that Tim Hardaway, NBA Hall of Famer, joins us. He will be back with us full time here in New York in a couple weeks after we take a little week vacation next week. We'll have Timmy back with us. Tim, let's get into some NBA stuff with Jacoby and, of course, Willie Colon here as well. First and foremost, LeBron James said he's 50-50 on whether or not he wants a retirement tour and all the attention that goes along with it. You and I both know there is no way that he retires without the tour. Is that correct?
No way.
Thank you.
He's lying. He is lying. He's not only lying to us, he's lying to himself. He all the attention. He wants all that.
Yes.
He loves all that. He loves all the attention, and there's no way that he's going out in the sunset without having a tour, every arena. Give him rocking chair, sit down, give him all types of gifts.
Yep.
He will love that. That's what he wants. So when he says that, he's lying.
That's right.
He stopped that. He should just tell us the truth and say, yes, I will let y'all know
I'm with
I can have all my everything that's coming to me.
Look, remember when he broke Kareem's all-time scoring record? Yeah. They had 9 celebrations for him.
Literally.
So there's no doubt he's going to want it. I want to take you, before the guys jump in here, I want to take you to the situation in Milwaukee real quick. Obviously, under Doc Rivers, they're 3-7. They replaced their head coach with the second-best record in all of basketball at the time, and we understand that they have defensive problems on that team. They had to score $130, it seemed like, to win every single night. But now you've got Doc Rivers, who I believe is now proving that he's a bit of a snake in the grass and stabbed him in the back. And now he's saying, well, hold on a second. I inherited a team about to go on the hardest road trip of the year. I should have waited till the All-Star break to become the head coach. Your take on Doc Rivers in Milwaukee, what's going on there?
Doc, you should have never taken the job. You know, don't. He should not never take. That's a debacle there. It's going to be hard for Damian Lillard and Giannis to coexist. I like both of them. They never should have traded Holiday. Never should have traded Holiday. You got a team that when the coach came in, he knew what he was going to have until a week before the season started. And then once a week before the season started, you up and trade Damian Lillard for Damian Lillard, which you should not have traded for. You didn't need him. I don't even know why you traded for him. You had a great team. Only thing you need to do is stay healthy. Middleton needs to stay healthy. If Middleton with this team don't stay healthy, then they don't win another championship. Middleton is a guy that you need to have him healthy and ready to go at 100% so you can win a championship.
And I'm glad you said that because when they did win the championship, as great as Giannis is, they won that championship on the play of Chris Middleton. He was the star in that postseason. Correct. So that's a very good point.
And Holiday also. Holiday took the challenge of guarding Booker and picked him up full court and made him work on getting buckets. So you losing a guy that's a 3D player that can play really good defense on 5 different players at any given time in the game, and then you for a guy that's a scorer and not known for defense, then you trade for Patrick Beverly. I don't even know why they traded for him. You trade for Patrick Beverly, which I love, and he with his competitiveness, and Dame and Patrick got beef, and they gotta come together and make sure that they okay. And that's what Patrick Beverly said. But I don't think Dame is that type of person that's going to let bygones be bygones, because that was kind of, turmoil and really bad in a sense where everybody was upset. So, it's a tough situation for Doc. I think it's going to be tough for Giannis and Dame and the crew to win another championship. But I think they should have just kept Holiday and left all that where it was at.
So, Tim, we're so excited to have you back here in studio with us in New York City, but things have changed a little bit from last year. What's happening in the city now is what's called Big Nick energy. Yeah! The city is absolutely on fire about these New York Knicks. Now, there are some injury problems heading into the All-Star break. That aside, can this team win healthy, when Randall comes back, when OG comes back, when potentially Mitchell comes back and Isaiah comes back, can this team make a run to the Eastern Conference Finals and perhaps the Finals?
Yes. Yes, they can. They can make a run at the Eastern Conference Finals and the Finals, but they got to stay healthy, Jacoby. They got to stay healthy. Randall, this shoulder concerns me. When you have when you dislocate your shoulder, it's you kind of like you playing hurt all the time now, and it come out of socket with a bump, fall down. Anytime in the course of the game, practice, anything, sleep on it wrong, it come out of place. So that's very concerning to me. He going to have surgery. He definitely going to have surgery to fix that and to be 100% again. But I don't think the Knicks don't win without Randall. If Randall is 100% with the additions that they made, they get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Without Randall, they won't make it. But I want them to be whole. I like what Leon Rose is doing there. I like what the Knicks have there. And yes, they could be a contender if they're healthy and if they whole.
You know how hard that was for Tim to acknowledge that the New York Knicks can get to the Eastern Conference Finals when the Miami Heat are a trash organization right now that are not going to make a run at all.
Hold on, hard that was for Tim. Are not trash. Miami Heat are not trash. We're not a trash organization either. Okay, Pat Riley, stop that, Greg. You know you've been trying to throw some hate on the Miami Heat all the time.
I have
and now since y'all have something going and you can see the future a little bit, you just throwing it. You just throwing it on there. You just throwing it. First, we got Miami. He got to get healthy too.
Yes.
And once they get healthy,
some more talent.
Who knows? but we made a run at it last year without Hero too.
That's true, and that's very, very true. He got hurt very early in that postseason. I think it was the first game of the postseason when he dove for that loose ball and messed his shoulder up. I will say this. You got to love, and this is why people love Pat Riley, the legend, Hall of Famer, the whole bit. Even though in New York, we hate Pat Riley because he faxed his resignation into the New York Knicks, 25 years ago. But here's why there is no divide when it comes to Pat Riley age-wise with the 20-year-old kids that make up, the roster of most NBA teams or late 20-year-old guys, right? And that's because every guy, and Tim knows what I'm about to say here, every guy in that locker room recognized that he did not give Spoelstra the extension until after his divorce was finalized so that he'd have to give up half. And every dude's like, that's the kind of guy I want to play for.
Hell yeah.
True or false, Tim?
Speechless.
I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I will say this. I will say this. Eric Spoelstra does deserve the money.
He's a great coach.
He should have. As
by the way, I'll tell you a story real quick. It's not public knowledge, but in the land of New York Knicks basketball, not knowing if the Knicks were going to be as good as last year, improve upon, getting to the second round of the playoffs where they did lose, obviously, to Timmy's Miami Heat last year, and that great series by Jimmy Butler, of course. But the reality is this. The New York Knicks would have made an offer to Spoelstra in a heartbeat to replace him here and make him the head coach of the New York Knicks. And the fact that Miami re-signed him for the big money that he got, well-deserved, I can tell you as a fact, the New York Knicks would have brought him in here in a minute.
Eric Spoelstra is not going nowhere. He's not going nowhere.
Well, he's not now.
Miami Heat. He's Miami. No. He wasn't going nowhere then. He's Miami Heat to the end. He's going to replace Pat Riley as president. Watch what I tell you.
Okay, now before we let you go, we do have to say goodbye here in a second. Just one quick thought, and Timmy again will join us in 2 weeks, every day of the week throughout the rest of the NBA season. Right now, somewhat surprisingly to people that have not watched a lot of NBA basketball because of football season, you've got Minnesota and you've got Oklahoma City as the top two teams in the Western Conference. Right now, I won't hold you to it. Will either of those two teams be playing in the Western Conference Finals?
Yes, I will take Minnesota in the Western Conference, going to the Western Conference Finals. I think Anthony Towns and by the way, last night we was watching him play in the All-Star game. He was the only one that was really running up and down the court and making plays and dunking the ball and making layups, and he was getting his workout in. Kudos to Anthony Townsend playing defense. Kudos to him. He's probably the only one playing. But you got Edwards. They got a nice crew. And I wish they will stay healthy. If they stay healthy, I think they go to the Western Conference Finals, and I think can beat the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals to go to the finals. I really do believe that because Anthony Edwards, this kid has unbelievable talent. And what he does out there on the basketball court, if he really truly puts his mind to it, he cannot be stopped out there. And he's a bucket getter. He's all over the place. Threes, dunks, layups, taking your guy to the basket, dribbling the ball. His confidence level is just through the roof. And I think that they are a team that will make it there if they're confident and if they stay healthy.
The one thing we learned about Anthony Edwards on Saturday was that he cannot shoot lefty despite wanting to. So, Timmy, 2 weeks.
You can't shoot lefty either.
I can't shoot righty either. It doesn't matter which hand I use.
And Jacoby need to stop that. No. Jacoby, you can't. Can you shoot Jacoby?
Oh, Jacoby. Get him off of Jacoby.
Tim,
get him off you.
Tim, I've seen your electrical workouts, okay? I've seen them. You're not moving very fast yourself.
We talking about basketball, Jacoby. We talking about basketball.
I can shoot.
We're going to find out.
Okay. We're going to find out soon.
2 weeks from today, Tim Hardaway joins us in studio with Willie Colon and will be with us the entire rest of the way up until and through the NBA Finals. Timmy, best for your family. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Hey,
I appreciate you as always, kid.
2 weeks.
All right, the great Tim Hardaway, of course, Mr. Hall of Famer and the inventor of the two-step. So, and the crossover. All right, we got much more coming your way. We'll give you the late show headlines. If you missed the All-Star game yesterday, we'll get into that a little bit. We got some LeBron James news, and we have some blood in the water in Dallas, Texas, surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. We will explain right after this on FS1.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Carton Show. It is the Monday after All-Star Weekend, and we start with that man, Matt McClellan, winning the dunk contest. And there's Sabrina Ionescu hitting some threes.
By the way, Jacoby, I challenged her to a three-point shooting contest.
What happened?
When she gets back from Indianapolis.
What'd she say?
And we're waiting to find out. So that's on the table.
Make that happen.
You can make that happen. I'm being told now that they passed on the offer.
Jacoby said he has the end.
I'll make that happen.
If you can make that happen, it'd be great. But in any event, sorry to interrupt you.
Well,
Look at that hot green court. I like it.
One thing I can't make happen is make the NBA All-Stars try hard during the All-Star game, which was last night. A little bit of an offensive thing, scoring 200 points, 180 points. What do you think about the whole weekend as a whole, Craig?
Look, I'm a fan of the NBA. I love NBA basketball, as you guys do as well. So I'm going to watch it no matter what. So I'm not one of these guys that's like, I'm not going to watch that again. I'm going to watch it every single year, no matter how much they foobar the sport of basketball on Sunday night, because I love basketball. So I'm in a different spot than maybe a lot of people who are like, I'm not going to watch that again. I am going to watch it because I love it. That being said, Saturday's become a better day than Sunday for me. And while, I kind of went through as a kid, it used to be Sunday was the better day because I saw, 15 or so of the greatest players ever. And this is, I hate to say I'm old enough, but, pre-internet and pre-social media, where I didn't get to see all those players more than maybe once a year in my hometown, right? So I got to see all the greats. So Sunday All-Star Game used to be must-see TV. Then I went through the era of I cannot miss Saturday night because I've got Larry Bird in the three-point contest. I've got all the great players in the dunk contest, and it meant something, right? And you could tell it meant something to them. So it's nowhere close as good as it used to be. My problem now is that, and it's what Larry Bird kind of said last night as well, which is I've got the greatest collection of basketball players on the planet in one gym for one game. How great would it be if we saw them competing against each other? And I will always go back to the video of the original Dream Team with Patrick Ewing and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and, Michael Jordan, obviously, and John Stockton and all the great players, right? And those games, those runs those guys had were competitive. And we've seen some videos of them now over the last 25 years that have kind of come out as we're learning more about, the behind-the-scenes story of that Olympics. But it's a problem because we're seeing the greatest collection of basketball talent on the planet, and we're not seeing basketball. We're seeing 50-foot jump shots, which, is crazy when Dame Lillard not once but twice, nothing but net on what is a pure jump shot from about 50 feet. Go outside today and try to take a 30-foot jump shot. Please. You're probably not going to reach the rim. He's now going up and shooting normally from 50 feet and dropping it nothing but net. So I'm seeing stuff that I ordinarily can't see in a game, and I do appreciate that, and I like it. But, man, I'd like to see a game. I'd like to see an isolation one-on-one. Can LeBron take it, whomever, off the dribble? I want to see Steph Curry, beating a guy and spinning around and making a sweet 25-foot jump shot. I want to see competitive basketball. The only way I've come up with where you can you can't guarantee it because of the money involved, but where I think I could play into the emotions of the players and get a competitive game would be to do USA versus the world. And for two reasons. One, I think it'd be a competitive game. You're talking about great talent on both sides. We put this together. This is not an end-all list. I want to be clear about that. Just this is the top of your head. Give me 6 Americans, give me 6 non-Americans. Can I get a game? And when you look at that, that's a game.
Yeah, but I mean, Craig, at the end of the day, what's heartbreaking about this, you're talking about, to your point, the best of the best are on the court at the same time. What you're sending a message to the younger guys that's underneath them is that you don't care, right? Because what coaches have a hard problem today is getting their guys to compete without telling them to compete, right? And so if you're LeBron James and company, you're the face of the league, this should have been a game. Let's just say you take the first quarter and you make it a glorified open run, right? Like we've seen on like Lifetime Fitness, right? But the second half, you would expect somebody like a Kevin Durant, a LeBron James say, hey, this is where we turn it on. Because as you mentioned, the old All-Star games in the fourth quarter, it cranked up, right? Whether it was Kobe versus Mike, whether it was KG, whether it was Shaq, it was somebody that said, hey, we're going to play basketball. We have yet to see that in the last 5 or 6 years, or maybe even longer, and that's what's concerning, because as much as you love the guys who are on the court, the fact is you're not getting the best out of them at an All-Star game.
No, and what's crazy, but, the generation before this one did play.
Yeah.
And you would have thought they would have handed that down, and whether they tried or not, who knows. But whether it's the amount of money guys make now to ask them to care about a glorified exhibition, maybe that's part of it. I think athletes across the board are just different mindset than athletes of the previous generation. But I think the NBA is now recognizing, much like the NFL did over the last 5 years, where we've got an issue where we have this great standalone event and people don't love it. And that's the reality. We're going to watch it. We love basketball. But if you're trying to get that fringe person who's on the fence and it's a Sunday night and I've got options about what I want to watch, why am I watching it if I'm going to get what I got last night? And last night, again, for the last 5 years, it's not a basketball game. It's a track meet. And yes, I see some really cool stuff, but I don't see a game. And I don't know how you incentivize them financially because they make so much damn money already. You've got to play to the emotions of, are you as an American going to let Europeans and Canadians beat you at our game? I think that's the last-ditch effort or attempt to make this game meaningful, impactful, or competitive because, Larry Bird's right. You've got the greatest players that are alive today on the planet, and we're not watching them compete.
But Craig,
with one
you're asking them to compete, right?
Yeah,
I
want you to compete.
This is not.
I think what the problem was with the last few years is there's these 22, 24, 26-point leads heading into those waning minutes. Because when it's been close, someone calls a timeout. It's like, all right, guys, they have a huddle. Like, let's play.
Yeah.
When you get down by 30, when you're not playing defense to start with, there's no chance of
So maybe you do this.
Back.
Now I'm just going to be crazy because of what you said, top of my head. Maybe when you start the fourth quarter at 0-0.
Reset.
And you play 12-minute quarter. And whoever wins the quarter wins the game, and there's some kind of cash prize attached to it. I don't know. Like, I'm going to watch it anyway.
But you can't make them compete the way we want them to, and that's fine, right? But you can make the dunk contest.
Yeah, but Jacob, we're talking
not without getting different guys in it.
But we're showing clips, guys coming down the court, a guy standing there like a cone, and he's just wiggling and swerving around him. Like, there's no.
And then he laughs. They laugh at each other, give each other a pat in the back.
I know this. I was watching video last night before I went to bed of the college dunk competition, and it was awesome. I mean, dunks I've never seen before, had seen guys contemplate before, and it was great. And I'm sitting back, I actually, to be fair, I got a laugh out of what happened on Saturday. Because I remember last year, Mac McClung won it. He was kind of like a YouTube star, for not a household name for a lot of people, but good enough to make it to the G League, so let's give him his props. He's a really good basketball player, and he scores. He's obviously a defensive liability. He's 6 feet tall, and he's slow, but the dude's a G League player. Probably that's what he is, talent-wise. And he went from being a YouTube star to that. And he wins the slam dunk competition last year and becomes, for a minute, a household name. And I'm saying to myself, there's got to be dudes in every NBA locker room who are like, yo, are we going to let this G Leaguer come in again and beat us at a dunk competition? You got to be in, you got to be in, I'm going to be in, because we got to take it back, right? And Mac McClung went out there again, and you could debate the scoring all you want, who cares? The reality is that dude showed up and said, I'll take the trophy again because I'm a better dunker than all of you. And that's what he was.
Yeah, I think you're speaking to pride and competitiveness. That's the whole point of this topic. They don't have it, and they don't care to have it. So you're talking about him because he is a G League guy. He wants to continue to keep his name out there. He's taking pride in this contest because this is keeping him alive.
You grew up a Celtic fan. So I have to ask you one very quick question. D. Brown successfully won a dunk competition when he did the blind dunk after pumping up the Reeboks, right? And he went up, hit his eyes and slammed it home. Can you walk me through a guy that tries that but covers his eyes after the dunk?
We always say what we need is the guys that play on Sunday to play in the dunk contest on Saturday. And Jaylen Brown says this. He says, you know what? I'll do it.
Nice.
I'm going to step up. I'm going to take out Mac McClung.
Yeah.
And then he tries to dunk, doesn't do it. Now he's jumping over like a YouTube star.
Everyone's
Twitch
jumping
star.
over somebody.
Yeah, but he's sitting down in a chair, and then he finally dunks the basketball, and then after the fact, goes like this, like he forgot to do it 4 seconds ago.
Yeah.
I think he legitimately forgot to
He
do
might
it.
have. Now, I want to take you to Adam Silver real quick. So, Adam Silver's the commissioner of the NBA, friend of the show, as you guys all know. And he congratulated the East on their 25-point win. But you'll tell when you hear this audio of Adam Silver that he was not thrilled.
The word well is important.
Not thrilled at the outcome. Listen to the commissioner. Go ahead.
And to the Eastern Conference All-Stars, you scored the most points. Well, congratulations.
Now, I can tell you, Adam Silver was behind the change this year to go from the draft and the Elam ending to the East, the old school East versus West, play 48 minutes of basketball, and whoever the score is. And the thinking was, it didn't really work out the way we wanted it to this past way because the games weren't competitive. That maybe if we make it East versus West again, we can get the guys to want to compete. And clearly he was like, man, I just saw a 500-point NBA All-Star game. What are we doing? He was not thrilled.
And at the end of the day, when you watch that, what did you take away from that other than these guys didn't want to be out there and compete?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't
But
help
that's how
the
it's been
league.
for years now, right? It's a track meet. It's a dunk contest. It's a 50-foot three-point shooting contest. No, I think they were, what did the East make, 50 three-pointers last night?
Something like that.
Something crazy like that, some kind of record. Anyway, it's a wrap now. Basketball takes a break till Thursday, and it's a real sprint to the finish line now. About 30 games, give or take, for every team. And consider this, with about 30 games to go, that right now, the Celtics and the Cavs in the East are the top two teams. Nobody thinks the Cavaliers are making a run to an NBA final, including the three of us. And out West, you've got Minnesota and Oklahoma City with the Clippers right behind in third, and they, of course, have the star talent. And right now, Tim Hardaway at least gave you Minnesota as a team that might find itself in the Western Finals. But if we backed up the clock 4 months ago, and I said to you at the All-Star break, I think we all would have accepted the Celtics, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Talent-wise, I think the Celtics are probably, next to the Nuggets, the best team in basketball, right? Talent-wise. I never would have put the Cavaliers up there at number 2.
No.
And as much as I love Alexander and the young town in Oklahoma City and the combination of Edwards and Towns, obviously, in Minnesota, 1-2 in the West?
No chance.
No chance.
No chance.
Which is why this sprint to the playoffs, especially out West, is going to be interesting. Really interesting.
Moving on to something
Because
else
where's
that
the
happened.
Phoenix Suns at? Oh, we got D Book. Oh, we got Kevin Durant.
Bradley Beal.
Oh, we got Bradley Beal. We got the best scoring 5 in the West. Where you at, KD?
Moving on to our second headline from All-Star Weekend, that is LeBron James. He had some media availability, and he was asked about sort of the end of his career and whether he sees himself sort of just quietly retiring after his season's over during the offseason or doing a whole season of a farewell tour. And he lied about it. Here he is.
I'm 50-50. I'm going to be honest because there's times where I feel like I guess I owe it to my fans that's been along this journey with me for 2 decades plus. I've never been that great with accepting like praise.
Sure.
It's a weird feeling for me, but I am a Laker, and I am happy and been very happy being a Laker the last 6 years, and hopefully it stays that way.
Craig, you believe him?
No, nobody believes him. You can't call yourself the king and then say, I don't handle praise well. That's number one. And here's the best part about it. I feel like I owe it to my fans to let them honor me.
Very nice. Sacrifice for him.
9 months.
A friendly chance so I can receive the flowers.
That's basically what he's saying. I feel like you guys should be given the opportunity to buy me gifts, to bow in front of me, to applaud me, and to thank me for what I've given you in basketball for the last 20 years. Look, Does he deserve it? Yes. He's obviously, the greatest player of his generation. And you could argue, who the top players are on your own time, not on our time, as much as you want. But the notion that he wouldn't set himself up for the biggest farewell tour in the history of the NBA is comical.
Yeah.
He ain't going to lose any sleep over it.
Nope.
Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in Adam Silver's office the summer before his final year, walking him through what he expects.
Making the schedule. Making the schedule.
Yeah.
It's going to be a volcano when I show up in Denver.
And here's the other rub on that. When he does play his last year, and I think we're in agreement, it will be announced this is his final year.
Yeah.
That means he has to play every road game. Because imagine the Lakers come to your town and they only play in the East one game in your building every single year, and the Lakers come into Miami, to New York, to Brooklyn, and they're like, it's a back-to-back. LeBron's not playing tonight, and you just dropped $2,500 on tickets?
Right.
Woo!
It's going to be bad.
Now, before I let you go, there was some argument over the jump ball to start the All-Star game last night, and how it was not fair.
Oh, boy.
If you could see us one more time, not fair.
Oh, man.
Not fair.
Even the players are like, what are you doing?
What the hell are you doing?
All the players are like, what was that?
Not fair. That was a rough.